Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night, frozen in place, your heart pounding, unable to speak or move? Was it just your brain playing tricks, or something far darker? Today on I Can't Move, we're diving into the strange world of sleep paralysis, what science says, what history tells us, chilling accounts from those who lived it, and our own encounters with the unknown. Welcome to the I Can't Move podcast.
Welcome to the I Can't Move podcast. I'm Jorge.
And I'm James. Welcome.
Let's go
What's
ahead and
going
get
on,
into
dude?
this, man. I'm excited, man.
Dude, I'm excited to tell a couple stories for sure. Because sleep paralysis is one of those things where I don't think it's taboo, but it's not talked about enough.
No. And it's one of those things where at least somebody, like at least in the circles that I've been involved in, like somebody has had some kind of experience. And it's just very interesting, the similarities that play into it. So I'm very excited to discuss it.
And I think some people have had sleep paralysis and thought it was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Or a night terror.
Or a spiritual attack.
Spiritual attack. Bingo.
That's definitely a common one.
Yeah. So what do you think sleep paralysis is?
So at least the definition that I got for it, so it's a type of parasomnia, where it's a temporary state of muscle atonia that occurs when a person transitions between sleep and wakefulness, leaving them conscious but unable to move or sleep.
So I kind of understood it where we have our general sleep cycle, and every cycle takes a certain amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then when this kind of, quote unquote sleep paralysis occurs, it happens during REM sleep. And REM sleep is rapid eye movement. And in that time period, you can see hallucinations, you can hear things, you can see things, you can be physically assaulted, if you will, push, pulled, anything. But it's, I believe from my research, it happens during REM sleep. And I know it's a short amount of time it can happen, but to the individual, I could probably feel like it lasts for hours.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is that normally these episodes are really only supposed to last for like a few seconds, up to like 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But I also read, and I think it was actually according to the Aurora Clinic, or Aurora Health, these episodes can actually last up to 20 minutes with some people. And those 2 minutes already feel like an eternity. So I can only imagine
like 20 minutes with the Sandman. No thanks.
Oh my gosh. No thanks. I don't care if it's real or not.
Well, okay. Like I've told you before, a quote from Albus Dumbledore from Harry Potter. He told Harry, just because it's in your head doesn't mean it's not real.
Right.
I mean, it's a true statement. It's a very true statement.
Right.
What would you say? Okay, what do you think some triggers are? What triggers sleep paralysis in the first place?
Well, so interrupted sleep patterns can definitely cause them. Sleeping on your back, sleep disorders like narcolepsy and insomnia can also be triggers. High levels of stress, which was also according to the Aurora Health Clinic. And then high levels of anxiety, depression, and PTSD can also contribute to sleep paralysis, which would make sense because there have been at least a few people that I've crossed paths with that were in the process of dealing with their PTSD I used to work with a guy that had really bad PTSD, and he would talk about night terrors. And I think at one point he even brought up sleep paralysis. I think that if you know somebody with PTSD, then sleep paralysis is going to probably be a pretty common thing.
Yeah, or nightmares in general. For example, my kids, I notice if, especially one of my children, if they eat too late, not only do they have an upset stomach, but I feel they start to have bad dreams. It's like it kind of messes up their blood sugar or something that causes it. Some of the triggers I would say would be, PTSD, what you said, definitely diet, like I just mentioned, my kids, alcohol, drugs, illegal or prescribed over the counter, and broken sleep. I know I used to work third shift for years and I would trip all the time.
Mhm.
I mean, I would have really lucid dreams, vivid dreams. Um, I would hallucinate. I remember one time my whole week was so broken with sleep. I thought I was late for picking up one of my kids from school. So I shot out of bed and I ran outside to my car and I'd only been asleep for like 20 minutes.
Oh my
So yeah, just
goodness.
it clearly those, healthy things we need to get like sleep and diet have are a major contributing factor into what can happen.
Yeah, for sure. And for me, I think that once I got married and realizing that I had to basically change my schedule, and the focus is no longer on me anymore. Now I'm having to focus on another person. I think shortly after I had gotten married, I know that I had my experience, which we'll go into a little bit later. But I mean, I know that my sleep pattern had been disturbed. And so I think that's what definitely triggered mine. I also, I also remember being flat on my back, which is another reason why to this day I still don't sleep on my back. I will not
Really?
do it. Yeah,
Just straight
it's
on your
always on
back?
my side. It's always on my side. I will not lay on my back.
I sleep on my back sometimes. Maybe that's why I have so many dreams. I don't know.
Maybe, I mean, at least not like I just don't want to have. I mean, I just don't want to have sleep paralysis just because of that one experience. And
Yeah.
so,
Well, okay, you just jogged my memory. I do have, I think my experience of sleep paralysis, I have been on my back. Like I've never been on my side or on my stomach. So yeah, it's almost like you're pinned down. Weird. So the experience of sleep paralysis itself, um, if any listeners out there are confused about if they're actually having a nightmare or sleep paralysis, let's talk about some symptoms. How we talked about being on your back, restricted movement would definitely be one. If you feel like you are half awake, half asleep, or just you're dreaming you can't move, restricted movement is a big one. Uh, what I've found and what I've experienced myself, which we'll get into, the feeling of dread and vulnerability to the highest degree. Um, just you feel like you're trapped. There's nothing you can do. The inability to move or speak is a huge
mhm.
one. I know people who have had them. I've read stories where their spouse is laying next to them and they're trying to say their name is Sarah or something, like they're trying to say their name to get their help, but they can't even get the words out. Um, and then anxiety, extreme anxiety, those are
Mhm.
definitely some symptoms.
Did you already say difficulty breathing?
I did not. No, that would be one. Yeah.
So, yeah, a couple other symptoms would be difficulty breathing or an intense pressure on your chest.
Yeah.
That would actually be that pressure that you feel would actually be um, a example of a tactile hallucination, which tactile hallucinations are typically whenever somebody feels something um, on them, like whether it's like like creepy crawlies on your skin, being touched. Um, the again the pressure on your chest,
Mhm.
and then there's visual and audible hallucinations. Um, and I would say that the hallucinations are probably the worst out of all the symptoms that we've talked about.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had a note here. So there was a difference between, forgive my pronunciation here. So it's hypnagogic and hypnopompic. So a hypnagogic is falling asleep. Um, and a good example of that, which I've had that many times, is when you're starting to drift off to sleep, and then you may have a dream where you're falling off a cliff, or you're like, for me, I've got to kick a soccer ball or something, and you jerk awake. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've had that. And then hypnopompic, like you're seeing things as you wake up. Like I've had one where you you think someone's saying your name. Have you ever had that? Where you were
N-
just to come out of sleep and then you hear, someone say your name and it sounds kind of echoey like in a movie and you just shoot awake. You ever had that?
So I've never had that, but I guess I don't know. Maybe this would be related, but I mean, I've had those instances where um I have woken up because I jerked awake, like I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I was falling,
Mm-hmm.
which I think pretty much everybody has probably experienced that at least
Oh yeah.
once in their life.
Yeah. And it happens when you're falling asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other one, I feel like the noises or whatever is happening when you're waking up or it wakes you up.
Yeah,
Strange.
the waking up because you feel like you're falling would be
Yeah.
the hypnagogic.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier, is it a spiritual attack? Which I think is definitely a contributing factor. So spiritual feelings during your sleep paralysis experience.
Mhm.
So what do you think are some of those? Do you have any good examples of that?
Of of like
Yeah,
the
spiritual
spiritual.
feelings like so if you think you're being demonically attacked, what do you think's going through your head and your heart at that moment?
I personally have never I've never felt like I was being spiritually attacked, or at least I don't feel like my incident that I personally experienced was a spiritual attack.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, like, I do believe that they can be spiritual attacks. I don't believe that every incident of sleep paralysis is a spiritual attack, but I absolutely believe that it is possible
Mm-hmm.
that they can be used. I
Mm-hmm.
think pretty much anything on this earth that we have or possess can be used against us in some way in the spiritual realm, for sure.
Oh yeah.
And just to be more specific, as a Christian, as someone that does believe in angels and demons, and I do believe in God, and I do believe there's the devil. I definitely am not gonna, obviously the best thing to do is listen to someone's story, hear about this, and just ask questions and ask them like what else is going on, and just try to, talk through more about the details and see if that is a possibility. But there are, but I mean, there are avenues that people can take in order to remedy sleep paralysis. But I would say, like, if you feel like it's a spiritual attack, which other cultures do have their own little, like, they have their own version of it, which we can go into here in a little bit. But I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think some episodes are could be contributing factors of diet, alcohol, and such, and others are spiritual attacks. I can say that I could distinguish the experiences I had in the spiritual ones because I've had a few times where I was just so scared straight, like I said, unable to speak. I couldn't move. And in my mind, I just cried out to God. And likewise, being a Christian myself, I just, my heart, I just said, God help me. I couldn't say anything else or Jesus help me. And it's almost, if it's not instantaneous, that feeling of being bound to something is just, you're free and the fear is gone, and it's like the light comes back on. And I remember that several times throughout my life where I've had that. And I basically, yeah, just cried out in the name of Jesus and it just goes away. And I couldn't even speak it, but I did in my heart and it went away. So it's like, I definitely, God can uh, rescue you from whether it is you're being attacked or anything else as well. You know, that you have the
Mhm.
faith that He will pull you out of that. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And I would say that typically during these experiences, the the most common things that people are going to be experiencing is they're going to have that experience of that evil presence in the room,
Mm-hmm.
the that overwhelming sense that someone or something is nearby, which usually it's often described as malevolent, or it's closing in, or it's
Mm-hmm.
watching them. Um, and yes, many people would agree that whenever they're going through this experience, that it feels so real that it is interpreted as a spirit, a demon, or
Mm-hmm.
an intruder. Um, and neurologically, this comes from heightened fear responses from the amygdala activity during the paralysis.
We should talk about some common visuals. So some of the things that people see during these experiences. And I found some information from sleepfoundation.org, and they actually listed 5 types of sleep paralysis demons, which I was kind of
How many types?
five types.
5 types.
Yeah. So let's see, I'll go through all 5 and then we'll talk about each one. So number 1 was called the intruder. Number 2,
Hmm.
incubus. Number 3, a shadow person. Number 4, the witch or old hag. And number 5, out of body figures or doppelgangers, which I thought was really interesting. Um, so the intruder for number 1, it said that it defined it as a shadowy figure standing in a room or the corner of a room. I have definitely had that. I remember when I was just out of college and my buddy and I had rented an apartment, and we was a 1 bedroom apartment, so we slept in the same room. He was on one side, I was on the other, and I woke up in the middle of the night and I just felt like someone was watching me. So I turn over and I look up and there's this all black figure just standing there, and our ceilings are probably 7 feet tall, and he's just standing facing my direction, just watching me, not moving. He was massive. And what was odd about it, he had on like kit, like military kit, and but it was just all blacked out. And I remember rolling over and I thought, that's strange. Why is there a giant man in my room? And then that realization of there's a guy standing in my room. I just flipped over. The guy was gone. I flipped out, went out of the room, checked the windows, checked the doors, told my roommate in the morning. He was almost in tears. he was he didn't understand what I saw. And but anyways, definitely checks the box for shadowy figure. 2, incubus. Now I know you talked about pressure on the chest. So it defined it as pressure on chest, feelings of someone pressing on your chest, sense of fear and dread. And like you mentioned that. Uh,
Yeah.
Number 3, shadow person, which is kind of similar to number 1. It can check in that box. Number 4, the witch or old hag, and I do have a story to tell about that later. The title itself is pretty yuck, self-explanatory. And then number
Yeah, it's
5,
disgusting.
yeah, and number 5, I thought it was really interesting. Out of body figures or doppelgangers. Now, I can say I don't know if I've ever heard a story, and I've never had myself an experience of seeing someone that looks like me. Have you?
No.
Yeah, I thought that
In
was,
fact, that's probably like my first time ever hearing about that
yeah.
kind of
Oh
phenomenon
yeah, that's
during
the
it.
first time I've ever heard that. I'm assuming it's really rare, but it sounds, honestly, when I read that, it kind of sounded like NDEs, so near death experiences. You
Mhm.
hear like people in a hospital, like someone says, like, "Oh, I died on the operating room table, and I saw myself out of body, and I could see myself on the operating table." And then, they went back in, something like that. But never seeing themselves in a hallucination or something. That would be really trippy.
Yeah, and another one other thing that um I actually wanted to mention is the more of like the audible more of like the
Yeah.
audible hallucinations during the sleep paralysis. A lot of the time, or at least sometimes, it's not just random sounds, but it's like the feeling of actually receiving direct communication from something, whether that's a spirit, an angel, or a demon. And I think that the one thing that is really creepy is that these sounds can be nonsensical, but other times they can also be terrifying commands that are being given. And some people would feel like these experiences are just too coherent to just
Yeah.
be dreams.
Yeah.
It feels like an actual incident or occurrence that's really going on. I would say I honestly don't know. My experience, which I'll just go ahead and tell it. So with my experience, I was laying down. It was it was really hot. Like this was during a heat wave, and of course at night it was a little bit cooler. But my landlord had ended up getting us an AC unit that we could use um because they still needed to send in the one of their contacts to be able to help us out with our AC. So we're sleeping, and my sleep pattern's been disturbed because I hadn't been married for that long. It's hot. My hours had changed. Like there was a lot of things that contributed, I think, to this experience, I would say. And maybe even a little bit of stress because like we also had just got our dog, and so we noticed that our dog was starting to like breathe heavily during the day and things like that. Like it was just like really hot, and but we're sleeping in the living room of this trailer, and I just remember laying in on this pull-out couch. Yeah, it was a pull-out couch or a couch that had like a pull-out bed in it, and I'm laying down and I had woken up and I had shut my eyes open because I think my body uh was telling me like you can't move, and so I ended up shooting my eyes open, and then you had actually hit the nail on the head whenever you said that people will be sleeping next to their spouses and they're trying to call out their name. That's
Hmm.
exactly what I tried doing. I'm
Yeah.
sitting there going, "Love, love." Like nothing is
Help
coming
me.
out. And I started getting scared because I was like, "Oh no, like this is like I knew what it was." I was like, I'm having sleep paralysis right now." And what ended up happening was like I'm looking around, I'm scanning around the room, uh trying to make sure that I'm not going to see anything. And I remember looking at like this coat rack next to our front door, and I it looked like I started to see something manifesting, like, in the process of manifesting, but nothing had fully I didn't see anything appear. And so I remember being angry too, like, once I got my movement back, like, I was just so mad that I couldn't move, like, I felt compromised.
Yeah.
So so I just remember finally, somehow, I think I started, like, moving my head, like trying to trying to be able to get that momentum to like just get up. But I think that once I actually, moved my head enough, I was able to shoot up and then And I just remember going, and my wife woke up. She was irritated because she had no idea what was going on. She's like, "What's your problem? What's your deal?" And whenever I told her what happened, she wasn't as irritated anymore. And
You're like, I was in a different realm being attacked, and
yeah,
you know where to be found.
yeah. And now you're being rude to me. Great.
You know what? We've known each other for quite a while now, and I remember is either the day or night you told me about that when that happened to you.
Mm,
Yeah, I specifically remember you tried to say your wife's name and you couldn't even get the words out of your mouth. Like just so crazy how you can be bound like that. Just
yeah.
it's bizarre.
Yeah. And honestly, I think I had it easy because I didn't have I guess you could probably say that I've had a visual hallucination just because it looked like something was beginning to manifest next to the coat rack.
Mm-hmm.
But it definitely was not. I that night I don't think it was. I don't think that it was tactile, and it definitely wasn't audible. But I mean, there have been plenty of other times in the past where, I woke up because it felt like somebody was covering my nose and my mouth, preventing me from breathing. And I
Oh,
remember like,
oh
yeah,
gosh.
I remember trying to like breathe, like take in a breath, but but it was like the more I tried, it was like fighting against me. And so I just remember waking up
Oh
and
gosh, dude.
yeah, it was like I had been held underwater for just a little too long. So I don't know if that would be considered sleep paralysis or not.
Uh, I definitely would consider that. Yeah, the feeling that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. The feeling of not being able to breathe, or someone's like holding your nose or something. I mean, ugh, and that it kind of it, that's definitely physical, but the auditory component, footsteps, scratching, banging, breathing, which I have experienced some of those as a child.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting how it just kind of checks all the boxes, all the senses. I wanted to mention that we talk about some of the legends of sleep paralysis. I know you had a few of these.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Sleep
yes,
paralysis around the world. Around the world and night terrors. How about that?
a good one.
So the old hag, being, I would say the top example. She's probably like one of the more common occurrences, but
Yeah,
apparently, according to the folklore, the old hag comes from Newfoundland and maritime Canada. So according to the folklore, in the fishing villages of Newfoundland, there's a warning that gets whispered across the generations. Don't let the hag ride you. They say she creeps in at night, an old twisted woman who sits on your chest. You wake up wide eyed, but can't move. You can't breathe. Her weight pins you down until dawn or until she decides to leave. So
yuck.
science calls it rematonia. When your muscles are paralyzed during dream sleep, you when your muscles are paralyzed during dream sleep, it keeps you from acting out your dreams. And sometimes you wake up before the paralysis fades. And so that heavy chest feeling is just your body trying to breathe normally while the mind is still half dreaming. And in a culture that's told the old hag, um, it's been for centuries that story's been told. Um, but the thing is that a lot of people have actually seen this hag. And I actually remember a old buddy of mine. He had actually told me of an account where um, the hag wasn't standing in his room. He was sleeping, but whenever he woke up, she wasn't just standing in his room. She was crawling towards his bed quickly, and he ended up getting his ability to move back pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy that he wasn't stuck there and she sat on his chest.
hmm I will tell my account in a bit here, but yeah, I have seen the old hag several times when I was a kid, and it's the same thing. She would. I know it's gross, but if anyone listening has seen The Ring or The Grudge, which I don't recommend because it's really not funny. It's to me, it's one of the most terrifying movies I've ever watched, and I've had recurring dreams. And this came out when I was high school, I think. But my point being, the way the girl moves, with it's almost like her joints are double jointed, whatnot. That's how she kind of crawls on the floor. I mean, I can see it now, experience as a child, but yeah, I get what your buddy was saying. I did wanted to mention uh the one in Japan they call for sleep paralysis. Once again, forgive my pronunciation. Kanashi Kanashi Bari, and they use that word to describe sleep paralysis, in which it literally translates to "bound by chains." I love that.
Hmm.
It makes
Yeah.
perfect sense. And
Mhm.
another mention was in the Middle East. They call them jinn. So it's
Yep.
like a sleep paralysis demon, and they're shape shifting. And sometimes they can appear as smokeless flames or shadowy figures, which kind of lines up.
Which in the Middle East, jinns are also demons.
That's right. Genies is kind
Yeah.
of like the Aladdin. He rubs.
Yeah.
I know the American version we talk about genie, but it's a jinn. I know in the Dune films, it's a really small part. Did you see the new Dune movies?
No, no, I haven't.
Okay, so I think it's the second one, but the main character, whatever his name is, he's got to go out and kind of do some tests in the desert to kind of prove he's one of them. And a piece of advice one of the elders gives to him before he goes out in the desert is at night, he says, don't listen to the voices in the desert. And he might even say the word jinn because it's kind of like, don't listen to them because they're trying to manipulate you, trick you, yada, yada. So it was like a warning, like, watch out for the evil spirits that will get you when you're by yourself. And that
Right.
movie is on a different planet, but it's essentially the middle or a desert. So,
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to add with the Kanashibari is that the um, belief is that in Japan is that if you've drawn the attention is that if you experience Kanashibari, then you've drawn the attention of something that you shouldn't have.
mm,
Sometimes it's the spirit of the dead, or sometimes it's a curse. And the way they look at it is if you if you connected with this thing, it's your fault.
yeah, I mean,
uh,
why not? Right?
right.
Why not? If you're meddling with Ouija boards or Wiccan or something where the goal is to open up a gate or portal, if you will, to communicate with the other side, and then you have repercussions like that.
Hmm.
I mean, are you, why are people surprised when something does happen?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that I think is where the discussion of where even though that this is, I think, a legitimate medical condition or or could be one, I think that's where the spiritual realm, once you get connected to that, I mean, it can absolutely take advantage of that and manipulate that, and it can
Yeah.
become more of a spiritual attack for
Yeah.
sure. In fact, um, I know you just got done talking about the ring. The so with the Kanashi Bari, the I'm seeing that it can have it can be represented as Japanese ghost imagery. So white faced, what's called a yuri. I
Hmm.
apologize if I also butchered that. So it's a white faced yuri with long black hair and can slip into these waking dreams. Um, Now you mentioned the Middle East, and in Turkey, it's also called the and I'm so sorry if I butcher this too. It's called the Karabasan, and what that means is the dark presser. It sits on your chest, steals your breath. It's watching with an inhuman amount of patience, and some would also say that this is the jinn come to
Mhm.
torment you.
Yeah.
Um, and this where that being watched feeling during sleep paralysis come real person experience it. And so, you know, you wake up and you get into this survival mode, but obviously you can't move. So um, it creates a threat to explain the fear. And I'm just saying, man, like that, I would say that one's really creepy because, like, I mean, I've seen videos where people are like ghost hunting in the Middle East and like they're seeing like these shadows moving around and like
Yeah.
they're making inhuman movements like just like it, and it is creepy. I've seen these like how they like approaching like these like abandoned buildings and things like that. It's just really freaking weird, and
Yeah.
I just that kind of stuff. And I think that the dark presser is actually it's pretty creepy if you ask me.
Yeah. So yeah, and the only other note I had was the same thing. The old hag was a phenomenon that's recorded in nearly every culture, like you said. So isn't that odd that the same sleep demon is worldwide?
Yep.
Should be a warrant for her arrest.
Well, and another thing too is that there are actually a few others. So we've already talked about the incubus and the succubus,
Mhm.
but just to go into that just a little bit more, just to clarify, incubus being a male demon who
Mhm.
typically visits women, and the succubus, which would be a female demon who typically comes for
Preys on
men.
men. Yeah.
Yep. And they both will pin their victims down. They'll whisper temptations, or a lot of people will actually advise that it's some kind of sexual assault,
Mhm.
which is terrifying.
Mhm.
Um, and then with modern Western cultures, people will usually talk about the shadow man, or he'll be referred to as the hat man. And he is typically the one that people will see who's waiting in the corner of your room, who's not speaking. He's not saying anything. He's just watching.
Mhm.
Um, in Brazil, they have another phenomenon called the Pisadeira. Um, that one is so that one is interesting because the Pisadeira is the one where this can occur if you eat too much. Um,
Yeah, like we said,
Yep. And so they
glutton sleep demon.
if you have too much to eat, people will be like they'll warn you of the piece of data, which I
Yeah.
could see this being something that people tell their kids like, "Hey, you know, don't eat too
Yeah.
much," you know. So
Yeah.
the explanation is that she's thin, bony with claws like kitchen knives. She walks across the rooftops at night, slipping into homes to step on the chests of the overfed.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can definitely see parents using this as like a threat to their kids, like don't eat too much. And I can
Well, have you heard that saying, like, don't eat 2 hours, stop eating 2 hours before bed? I've grown up hearing that. Don't eat too late.
Yeah,
Is
and I think I've heard like not to eat like an hour. It was like either an hour and a half or an hour before bed.
yeah, like it's not good, but yeah, I definitely think diet is a big contributing factor sometimes. And if I wouldn't be shocked if there was in the the sleep demon universe that there's one that preys on people eat too much and gluttony. It makes sense.
Yeah. Um this final one that I'm getting ready to mention, I found this one really interesting. So this is actually from the Philippines. This is called the Batibat or the Bangungat. I know I
Heard of this?
totally ruined that. You have heard of it.
Yes, I have.
Well, if you could humor me, because you probably found a little more
Well, I
information
didn't do
than
any
I.
research. You said the Bati bot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of it, but I did not do any research on it. No.
Okay, so the body bot is a vengeful tree spirit that suffocates you if you disturb its home. The Bangungat is a nightmare so powerful it kills. People are told to never sleep on a full stomach or the Batty Bot may strike, which is interesting because, again, food is also playing into this
Yeah.
one as well.
Yeah.
Um, but this one gets even weirder. So the suffocating feeling, which is a standard part of sleep paralysis, also happens here with the Batibot and the Bangungat. But in rare cases, sudden unexplained nocturnal death, or referred to as suns, has been documented in Southeast Asia, and men
So
would die in their sleep, and the legend gave that death a face and a motive.
it was the opposite of SIDS.
Yeah,
Yeah. Instead of SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, you said SODS?
it is suns,
Sun.
sudden unexplained nocturnal death.
Yeah. I wanted to note what you said about the succubus and incubus. I kind of refer to them as the twins. I feel like
Mhm.
the two of them are a pair. How both of them, it's kind of like they're being sexually assaulted if they're being attacked by those two. And it reminds me a lot of when people spoke about SRA victims. Are you familiar with those? Satanic ritual abuse.
Yes.
Yeah. And I've heard testimonies and I've read about victims who were forced into these rituals and they would talk about like a being or something like that literally like a succubus or incubus sexually assaulting them during those rituals. So that's it reminded me of that. And obviously those come about because of the ritual, because of the purpose of those demonic things. But it's just really, really sad.
Yeah, and it's actually really it's horrifying and just to think that somebody could potentially be completely innocent and something like that could be brought upon them because of the fact that maybe at one point in their life, whenever they were really young, maybe a parent had dedicated them to
Yeah.
the demonic realm
Mm-hmm.
or something like that, which I'm just going to reference the Exorcist files here. That kind of stuff happens more often than you would probably think, which is
Yeah,
terrifying.
it is. It's it's one of those things, once again, just like the topic we're on today, it's not spoken about enough. I
Right.
know the generic term, when they say on the news sex trafficking, it's like, yes, but there are all kinds of things that are involved in sex trafficking, like the reasons why they traffic people, men, women, and children. And it's really, really disgusting and
Hmm.
horrible. And one day those people will be brought to justice. But yeah, it's really despicable how an abuser can take a victim and perform these things or summon these things on innocent people to think it would give them some kind of power or something.
Yeah.
Just straight up dumb, dude.
So I guess I would also like to take this time for anybody that's listening to this podcast that if you have a story that you want to tell about your sleep paralysis experience, please feel free to submit your stories, and we'll also make sure that at the end of the episode to give you the information where you can submit your stories.
Yes, please do. We'd love to hear your stories. Um, we welcome that kind of thing. Sometimes I feel talking about it and relating to other people can really help kind of cope with it. So yeah, please share those and we'll give the information at the end. I think it's time we talk about some experiences, some of my experiences I've had, and I know you have a recording from someone.
I will. I will go ahead and let you know. So my older brother gave us the courtesy of telling his story. He has two accounts. And so what we'll do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to play back the phone call that he had with me. So I will give it to my brother.
The first one that I had was the absolute worst. And we were living in Missouri at the time. And all of us boys shared that room upstairs on the second floor. And for whatever reason, I remember there being like some kind of helicopter outside the window of the bedroom. And by the way, it was really weird because even though I knew I was dreaming, it also looks like the room as it was. And even in my dream, I knew that it was like I knew I was having a dream, and I knew that the room layout was as it was when I was awake. Just I can't really explain that, but it's really weird. And then I remember laying down in bed, and I couldn't move, and I kept watching the closet, and I could feel like an evil presence. And I remember like something, and I felt like it was like this presence in the closet, picked me up, pulled me out of the bed, like probably lifted me like maybe a foot at most, pulled me out a little bit, and then set me back down. And then it lifted me up again, and it pulled me out further, and then it set me back down in the bed. And then it picked me up, and it pulled me out further. And when I say further, I mean like the first time it pulled me up about a foot, and then probably away from the bed about a foot, and then laid me back in the bed. The second time, probably like 3 to 5 feet away from the bed, and then laid me back down in the bed. And then it did that like probably like 4 times, and it freaked me out. And I remember I was so scared. I remember whenever I had woken up, I remember um, going downstairs, and then Dad, he met me in the living room, and I told him like I was terrified and I couldn't go back to bed. And by the way, at this time, I think I'd already gotten out of the military, so I was probably like 21, probably early 20s at this time. And I remember like I asked Dad to pray for me because I was so terrified.
Your brother being lifted out of bed. I mean, it reminds me of someone was talking about along the lines of possession or something. Like there's like 4 or 5 things that have to happen. It's like the first thing is where you feel something, right? Something's watching you, something. The second one is where you're actually like, you have a reaction, goosebumps on the back of your neck, whatever. The third one is you hear something. Fourth one, you see something. And the fifth one is like you're actually being touched, like you're being harmed.
Mm-hmm.
Your bro was lifted out of bed. I mean, I think I would have been crying.
Yeah. Well, and you know what's interesting about this is that whenever I was reading into more about, because I had never heard of the term tactile. It wasn't until I started researching for this episode that I figured out that it was like the feeling of things touching you or even being lifted, and that's the reason why a lot of people will also even say like they thought they were being abducted by aliens because they felt their body was being lifted.
Yeah.
And but with him, he was having a visual and a tactile hallucination at the same time. Um, so he saw this figure, and this figure picked him up and was moving back, and then it kept on, moving forward, but it kept on moving, and it brought him back and forth to the bed. Like, what did he say? Like 3 or 4 different times.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that's freaking
That's
terrifying.
nuts. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's enduring all this while it's happening in real time to him. What?
Yeah.
He wasn't. Was he married at the time? Was he alone?
No, he was so this is back whenever we were living in Missouri. He was in his room. He was sleeping. I remember I remember um, obviously talking to him on the phone about it, but I don't think he ever told me uh, when this was, like as far as like if it was like a nap he was having during the day or if this was like at night, which I would probably assume that this was sometime at night. But yeah, he kept on. He's had a few of these experiences, or maybe not sleep paralysis, but he has had other incidences which maybe, you know, put it in the pocket for another episode. But like, I mean, he would even have like really bad nightmares. Like he was going through a really weird time. But you know, I think if we're going to look at it from a logical, or at least attempt to look at it from a logical perspective, one could probably try to say, well, you know, he had just gotten out of the military, so maybe he was adjusting to a new sleep cycle. Maybe his sleep pattern was disrupted a little bit. Um, could this be a spiritual attack? Maybe. But at the same time, I don't, and you know, maybe that's something I could talk to him about at a later time, but like, I don't really know if, I don't really know if I would categorize it as a spiritual attack, but you know, it would also be very interesting to talk to him again and see what he thinks.
Yeah, it would.
Did you have anything else that you wanted to add?
I did not know.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and play his second story.
All right.
Another time I had sleep paralysis was, I think we were still in Missouri, and we were expecting to come over. At this time, we're already a little bit older. You know, they were past the toddler age. And I'm laying in my bed, and at this point in time, we didn't share a room anymore. My bedroom was the one that ended up taking over. Yeah, and then I had Bill's old room, and then you had basically our room that we had all shared. And I remember hearing laughing and running upstairs. And at this time, I'm pretty sure I was working security at the casino in Oklahoma, and I worked, you know, midnight to 8 a.m. And I was in college at the time, so like I was just sleeping when I could get it. And I remember it's probably like around noonish, and the sun was out shining brightly. And I remember hearing like laughter from children running up the stairs. And I remember I was sleeping belly down on the bed. And I remember my left leg just shot out and up, and it felt like something was like dragging me off the bed. But in that moment, I knew what sleep paralysis was, so I wasn't scared. And then I remember like my leg dropped, and then I woke up a little bit after that. Like I got up, and I remember I was fine. I wasn't scared at that point. But I remember going downstairs. I'm like, "Hey, is Sarah here yet?" And they're like, "No, she's still like an hour or two out." So that's pretty much like the second one that really sticks with me.
All right. So there is a couple of things. So interesting how the first story he told us, he had a visual and a tactile hallucination because he saw the shadow man or the hat man, and then he was being lifted. But then in the second story, his leg was picked up and dropped, and then he also heard children
Yeah.
laughing,
There
which is
was an auditory component to it.
yes. So this time it was audible and tactile. And to hear children laughing is absolutely disgusting.
Oh man, that's
We didn't have.
I'm out.
Yeah, and I can
They're
tell
not my own
you.
children.
Yeah, and I can tell you that at that time, the so that story he was telling, and just for anybody that's kind of wondering or kind of confused because of the editing, so I was leaving out names. I had edited that footage, and I was leaving out names, but it was our sister, one of our sisters that was coming to visit, and she was the only one who had kids at the time of this incident. So there was really no reason for him to hear children laughing and playing because they
I
hadn't
think I
been
know.
there yet.
I think I know why. The logical explanation. He lived
Why?
right next to an elementary school that only went at midnight. Uh, yeah, dude.
But if you,
It creeps me out big time.
yeah, but if you also pick up what he said that he was in college and he was also working a security job.
Yeah. So
That'll screw your sleep pattern up right there.
His sleep's all kinds of messed up.
Yes. I actually even remember him telling me that he would show up to school, and honestly, good on him because he did end up earning that degree. Like he legitimately earned it. Like he would show up to school while working the security job, and he would pull into the parking lot at the university, and he would get his blanket and his pillow and he would sleep in the parking lot before it was time for him to start class.
Mm.
So I mean, like his sleep schedule, I know for a fact was jacked up. I feel for him because it's like he felt his leg get lifted and dropped.
Yeah. Poor guy. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
So what's going on?
Yeah. I got some questions for you, man.
Yeah, maybe we'll have to get him on here and see if he'll do an interview one of these days.
Yeah. No, we appreciate his submission of his story because that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And again, this is what we want for the podcast. So if anybody is interested in having their story shown, if you can, like we said, we'll give you the email information, and if you can get a clip of your story or something, we would definitely love to also hear an audible recording as well, and we'll put it on the show.
Absolutely, 100%.
I know that I've got some Reddit stories, but
I do. I have two personal experiences, and I'll just go with the two that I think about quite a bit. So, speaking of the old hag, when I was, I don't know, in elementary school, I had two experiences that I can remember. And basically, how my bedroom was back in the day, my feet were facing the door of my bedroom, and I had a nightlight. And then down the hall, and then my parents' bedroom was right there, and to the right was my sister's room. And I remember just one night, it's funny you mentioned on your back, but I was just on my back, hospital bed stuff. And I woke up and with just feeling of dread, like I wasn't alone. And not only alone, but I was with somebody dangerous. And I remember I couldn't move, I couldn't speak, and I could only move my eyes. And I looked to my left, and in the corner of the room was this old hag. And I'll be honest, I hadn't seen too many old hags when I was a kid, and I remember her clothes, she had a shirt on. She was so thin, like just really, really thin. And her skin was all leathery and pockmarked and gray. And she had a shirt that was all tattered, and she had looked like there were maybe pants or shorts that were all tattered, no shoes. And she had kind of like scraggly gray hair. And she was squatted down, kind of like with her knees out. And she was just looking at me. And then, I can't move or speak. I'm trying to, but I can't. And I see her kind of that, I'm sorry, I know it's gross, but like that kind of like teetering
strut.
Yes. But she's still like bent down, and she teeters over to me, and I just couldn't take my eyes away. And then she disappears, and I look at the end of my bed, and she's like peeked over her face, and she's just looking at me. I mean, dude, it was bad. I was a kid. I was trying to scream for my mom because she was right there. But as far as I can remember, that happened twice. And both experiences, I remember I just held my eyes open as long as I could. And then all of a sudden, it's morning. I could see the light through my bedroom window. I hear birds chirping. And I was like, oh, thank God, like I'm alive. So it was pretty terrifying, but I can still see it as a 36-year-old man. I can still see her. And, If she didn't visit me in my dreams, I put her in a chokehold. But
Or it's probably some crackhead that broke into your house.
yeah, and then left.
She was having an episode just scratching at the floor trying to look for crack.
And another one, so it was strictly auditory. Same thing. I was on my back. Seems to be a common theme here. I was in elementary school, and same thing. Woke up, but I was staring straight down the hallway, and I heard this like that. And
Like something galloping?
No, like heavy steps. And we didn't have
Okay.
my old house. We didn't have a slab foundation, so there's all the pipes and everything in the house. So it was kind of that hollow walking. And at first,
Okay.
it startled me, and I looked right, and I thought it was my dad. I was like, me and my dad, for some reason, is stomping to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and I hear it right down the hallway, and it's getting faster and heavier. And then I thought, that's not my dad. I don't see the light on or anything. And then, like, really fast, right up to the edge of my door, like right in front of me. And it's just, I could hear something's just standing there, and it's big and it's staring at me. Same thing. I was petrified, and I just couldn't I was looking for anything that would move. And next thing I know, it's morning and the birds are chirping. Never knew what it was. So, some of those things as a kid, I don't know how to deal with. As an adult, I've had a few things, but I can't really remember too much, which is surprising. I remember those as a child. But I wanted to say a quick story about my buddy David. Told me in college. And this would be I'm assuming an incubus, I believe. So his buddy told him this story. They went to a camp, and they were in the lodge or whatever, and they were all bunked up. And the camp leader said one of the kids kept coming up and saying, "Hey, I can't sleep. I can't sleep." And he's like, "Hey, what's wrong?" And he's like, "I just have this heavy pressure on my chest. I just can't sleep." And he's like, "Okay, well, let's go back to bed, and we'll get you back." And then the kid got up again, and he's like, "I still can't sleep." He's like, "Okay, let's pray about it." And so he said he prayed over the kid, God, please help this boy, take this pressure away from him and help him get to sleep. And sooner than later, the boy went to sleep, and he didn't come over to the guy anymore. And the guy said as he was falling asleep, all of a sudden he started to feel pressure on his chest.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he very quickly picked up that there's something, he was being spiritually attacked, and he did the same thing except for himself. He just prayed that pressure would go away, and it did. So I thought it was really interesting. You hear these stories in this research. It shows about these, types or the experience that people have, and it, happens all the time. But that we are attacked. But we talked about it's not always an attack. You eat too many Doritos before bed, you're going to have some great experiences. But yeah, those are the big three I had for me.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? That's a really good example of recognizing when something is a occurrence from maybe a condition you have or something that you can legitimately start looking at as a potential spiritual attack. And
Yeah.
to me, that sounds like a textbook spiritual attack.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
prayed, he got rid of the issue, or it seemed that the issue went away for this kid. But then once the kid was dealt with, he ended up carrying that kid's burden, it
Yeah.
seemed.
Interesting how it passed on to him.
Mm-hmm. So I think in that case, it's like, yeah, I would say, yeah, it sounds like I would I think any Christian would reasonably believe, like, yeah. And not only that, but like, even if you talk to men and women of Christian faith that are like really deep, it's actually funny because I was listening to an episode of The Exorcist Files where there was a guest that they had on, and they even said, like, people treat spiritual attacks like, yeah, they happen. They're going to happen. Like, they're like nonchalant about it. It's like an understanding that they know that they're going to happen. So if if you're a believer and things like this start happening to you,
Mm-hmm.
it's like getting a bug or a fly in your house. you spend all your time like shooing it away until finally like you get rid of it, but it's like it's like during the summer you expect it to happen. And so you're like, yeah, let's work on getting rid of it. And then like you don't think it's like once you swat it and you get rid of it, you don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah.
It's like that's how men and women of faith look at these situations, and it's just really, really interesting. So
Yeah, everyone's susceptible, but I would say especially um believers are, Christians are, because it's, you know, either you're participating and drawing that in or you're being attacked. I mean, when I was attacked as a child, in my memory, I did nothing to draw those things in. It just happens. But yeah,
yeah,
we're all susceptible. But yeah, and to go on with that, some coping mechanisms and prevention. Diet would be one. I'd say I personally feel better if I don't eat a couple hours before bed. I just sleep better. I suffer from acid reflux, so that's just one tip. Anyways, don't eat too
you and
much.
me both.
Yeah. Regular sleep schedule. I my hat goes off to all those out there who work third, because Jorge and I here, we've worked thirds together. We've worked at the same place together. We just know, we know the pain and we know how hard it is to get good sleep. So if you can correct that, that would definitely help. Influence from entertainment, we got to be careful. Just like I warned you not to watch The Ring, I watched that when I was dumb in high school, but we got to be careful what goes in our minds, because like I explained to my own children, if they want to watch something, that's scary, I said, I get it. You may be brave and you be able to quote unquote handle it. But I said, those things are stored in your mind and they can come out at any time. And things I still watched, like horror stuff, can still pop up to this day. And if you're a Bible believer, if you believe in Jesus Christ, yeah, stay with the word, stay in prayer. And if you're getting yourself in those situations, you know what you need to do.
It's good advice, man. I'm going to go ahead and share some Reddit stories. So this Reddit user is King Colin. So this user shared that they used to experience sleep paralysis about once a month. So most of the episodes followed a similar pattern. So they'd be lying on their back, they'd be awake but unable to move. They could see the room clearly, just like my brother had actually said in one of his stories. He was able to see the room clearly, but their eyes wouldn't respond. So dark figures often appeared in their peripheral vision, and the fear that entered was just super intense, and the only way they could wake up was by forcing themselves to scream. They would start it as a deep growl, and then eventually they turned it into a full scream.
Yeah.
And they said that they were sleeping next to their partner whenever whenever this would happen. But a few episodes had stood out more for this Reddit user. So, in one instance, a shadowy figure would lean in and whispered a nursery rhyme directly into their ear. What made it particularly disturbing was that they could only hear it in the ear the figure was whispering into, just like real life directional sound.
Mm.
Um, the most terrifying episode involved multiple dark figures surrounding them and repeatedly stabbing them in the stomach. And the pain was so real that they ended up going to the hospital afterward. But it turns out their appendix had actually burst. Interesting, right?
Very interesting.
What a very creative way to like wake yourself up by screaming.
Yeah. Yeah. Fight, flight, or freeze. You're gonna do one.
I guess that's a testament of like, if you wake up to your spouse growling, maybe they're just trying to wake up from, or maybe they're trying to get out of a sleep paralysis.
Yeah, give them a break.
Yeah, don't think they're possessed.
Yeah.
Just let them know you're there. Just be like, hey, what's going on? Because you're sounding crazy right now. So another Reddit user had a few stories. This is a deleted account, but um, the first one is about a boy in the glass door. So one night, the user was asleep on the living room couch in a hazy, dreamlike state. They saw their room walk. They saw their roommate walk quickly from the hallway into the kitchen, then disappeared from view. Suddenly, a boy appeared at the glass sliding door behind them, urgently tapping and repeating, "Let me in, let me in, let me in." And so the user tried to turn around, but they realized that they were paralyzed. But as the paralysis faded, they became fully conscious and realized that their roommate had actually never entered the kitchen,
Hmm.
which is interesting. So yeah, this was a visual and audible hallucination, most likely. The thing on the bed. In one of the most unsettling episodes that this person experienced, they woke up to a pile of blankets obstructing their view of the bed. Something weighing about 30 pounds crawled from their legs to their chest, making strange clicking sounds and jerking movements. Eventually, it leaned
Like
over the
inside.
blanket and revealed its face: red, glowing eyes, no nose, and a unrecognizable, disturbing appearance. That's disgusting.
It reminds me of, you see those memes on, I guess you call them memes or whatever, on Instagram where, you
Mhm.
wake in the middle of the night and your pile of clothes on your chair in the corner room looks like a man sitting there. And then you turn on
Yeah,
the lights, it's just a pile of clothes.
yeah, I
Is that
hate
your
that.
imagination or your eyes playing tricks or what?
I definitely believe that in a lot of cases our imaginations just
Yeah.
run rampant. And I mean it's good. It goes to show that you have a great imagination, but it also goes to show how flawed that imagination can be.
Yeah,
Um
dude. You just you don't know. And I think you try to reason with yourself to a point like, this isn't happening or this can't be happening and it's just my imagination. Hard to tell sometimes, but I do think it helps to talk about it.
so this is another story by this same deleted account. So during another episode, this user awoke to a feeling of pressure on their chest. It was as if something invisible had a grip on them, like their torso had a built in handle. This unseen entity dragged them off the bed and down the hallway. When they later woke again, they briefly saw a strange creature, something like a cross between a bee and a fairy, hovering above them. They
Hmm.
tried to swipe at it, but it vanished as full consciousness returned.
It's like your metaphor, dude. Just get that fly, get that fairy.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is I would actually like to know if like more details. It stinks that the account got deleted because I would
Yeah,
have loved to have like asked them more about it, like where they were, like just I don't know, just like more details.
indeed.
While staying in a cottage, they woke to the sight of a young girl standing at the foot of the bed, balanced on a stepladder, carefully replacing a light bulb. Just beyond the open bedroom door were two floating heads, stacked vertically, with blank, emotionless faces, silently watching from the shadows. What an odd.
It's completely bizarre. It
Yes.
sounds like something from if anybody's familiar with Studio Ghibli, like Spirited Away. It sounds like that. Like what a weird, experience.
It's
So
like a
strange.
Goosebumps episode.
Yeah, no
you know?
kidding. It's so weird how, I mean, I'm not downplaying their experience, but I mean, it's like, gosh, like how does some of this stuff, it's not even clear of what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I mean, this just goes to show that like these are dreams being played out. And I guess like it would make sense that it doesn't make sense because sometimes our dreams can just be so random and have and because I'm pretty sure that I know I have absolutely have woken up from a dream and I'm like, what the heck happened? Like, what was
Yeah.
that about? And I'm sure everybody else has had those very things happen to them. And I think this is just a manifestation of that during a sleep paralysis episode.
Yeah.
Another user, as chemo AK. So this person recalled a particularly vivid sleep paralysis episode that started about an hour after falling asleep. So they opened their eyes and scanned the room, able to move their eyes but not their head. That's when they saw a figure walk across the room right in front of their bed. The figure was dressed entirely in black, wearing a wide brimmed hat, kind of like a Van Helsing type character. Strangely, the face was never visible. Thinking it was a burglar, the person planned to wait until the figure got distracted, rummaging through a nearby desk, and then jumped up and tackled him. But before that could happen, the man started muttering something unintelligible. The sleeper took that as the moment to spring into action, except their body wouldn't respond. They were completely paralyzed. All they could do was let out a strained groan, a sound so loud that their neighbor actually knocked on the door afterward, concerned that something was wrong. Then came the most chilling part. The figure turned toward them and said in a deep, eerie voice something along the lines of, "You can't move, can you, boy? This is what it feels like to be helpless." And then he laughed, a disturbing, psychotic kind of laugh that still haunted the person long after it ended. Trying once more to break free, they shut their eyes and pushed with everything they had. This time, they actually woke up, sitting up so forcefully that their entire bed slid across the floor. Their muscles ached as if they had just gone through an intense workout, and their heart was pounding. There was no one there. But the fear stayed with them for days, and sleep didn't come easy after that. I don't think I have ever heard of a situation where someone heard the Hat Man or the Shadow Man speak to them.
No, not to discredit that story, but yeah, it seemed a little. I've never been spoken to. We talk about auditory stuff, but not someone's muttered words or something. I should have done research on it, because correlation doesn't equal causation. But Freddy Krueger, isn't he? He's some kind of sleep demon, isn't he? I've never seen the films.
Yeah, I would probably say so because I know that there was a case that had been there was a case study. I think that Freddy Krueger was actually based on because there were people, but I think that it was people in like a I don't know if it was a asylum or something like that, but I know that Freddy Krueger was based off of like a real incident where people were seeing like the same person in their dreams
Mm.
or in their nightmares.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
I can
The
clarify
old
that in
day.
another episode.
Yeah, I know. And we got to talk about one of our favorite podcasts, which I'm not sure if it's still called Monsters Among Us, but a popular theme people talk about is the mirrored men, which is a really interesting phenomena.
Mhm.
But yeah,
So, again, for everybody that's listening, if you have listened, we thank you so much for your time, and we definitely really enjoyed this. This was our first episode of the I Can't Move podcast. If you want to submit a story and or you want to submit a voice clip of your story, then you can just go ahead and send us an email at ican'tmovepodcast@yahoo.com. And we would be absolutely thrilled to hear whatever you have to say. This has been a really good episode. I'm really happy we did it.
yeah, absolutely. This has been really fun, really informative for me, and I'm excited to get on to the next one. To those still listening, we plan on touching on all kinds of fun topics: missing people, aliens, Nephilim, you name it, ghosts. We're going to dive deep.
Absolutely. Well, this has been the I Can't Move podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you on the next one.
Peace.
Peace.